Good afternoon, everybody. Michael Kotzenmoyer with you here. We're going to get started shortly. It's just 1 minute before the 2:30 time slot, so bear with us. We'll be underway shortly. All right, folks, it is officially 2:30, so we shall begin. As I said, my name is Michael Kotzenmoyer. I have the pleasure of being joined today by Crystal Lawler, AVP and Commercial Lines Underwriter, USLI. Today's topic, of course, is vacant buildings/land. So vacant buildings is something that we at J.E. Brown do quite a bit of, both personal and commercial. But today we're going to be kind of honing in on the commercial and specifically the USLI product. It's something that we do very well with USLI, and we were hoping to expose for some of you that maybe haven't written vacant buildings previously. So let's get underway. Okay, so just a couple of logistics. As always, we have everybody in listen-only mode. That's just to respect your audio experience. If you do have questions, however, you can see on your screen right now, there's a little illustration of the GoToWebinar dashboard, and you can type those in at any time. We encourage them. We love questions. And so the reason we do those at the end is, of course, your question might be answered somewhere along the way, and we just want to make sure that we get everybody back to writing insurance, which is what we're all here to do. So we try to give you a quick hit of information and get you back to business. Meeting will be approximately 45 minutes, but we typically wrap a little bit less than that. Depends on Q&A, and certainly if folks don't have questions, they're free to leave once we're done presenting here. So the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about who is USLI. I think most of our customers are somewhat familiar, but there's always the possibility that some are not. We're going to talk about certain exposures. So in addition to vacant buildings, we're going to look a little bit at some of the other scenarios where you might find yourself going toward the vacant product, such as renovations, vacant land, etc. And then we're going to touch upon the Business Resource Center and how to quote online. So we're going to finish with a quick demo. Crystal is going to give us the bulk of the presentation. I'm going to take over and do a quote, and then we're going to talk about a few aspects of the quote and then open it up for Q&A. So, Crystal, you with us?
Yes.
Perfect. I am going to hand you the reins. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Michael. So as Michael mentioned, I'm Crystal Lawler from USLI, Commercial Lines Underwriter. And in case you're not familiar with USLI, we're an insurance company based out of Pennsylvania that is a member of the Berkshire Hathaway Group. We've always had like an A++ rating, which we're very proud about, and it's something that we strive to work towards every year. What we also strive to work towards is to be the #1 service company in the industry. We just want to be your catch-all company for your small businesses, along with some different specialty products. So the way we deliver that to our customers, which is J.E. Brown, and in turn to you, is through consistency, through speed and service, ease of use, and we want to deliver that all with the best support that we can. So, we know that in turn, the more business you write, the longer term you stay in business, then the longer that we can help you service those accounts and stay in business as well. So the ultimate success of you is determined on the success of our company. So we'll move on to the different type of vacant exposures that we're going to be talking about today. So the first one is vacant land. So with our vacant land, we're specifically talking about just bare land. So we don't want any operations to be taking place on there, but it is a perfect product to designed to cover someone who's just, buying a piece of land to maybe develop in the future, or maybe had some land passed down to them and they're not sure what they're going to do with it. But essentially they'll need GL coverage just in case, someone ever walks on their land. Or one of the most unique claims that we've ever seen is Actually, there's a property in Fresno area where there was a vacant land that we were insuring, and some dust kind of blew up from a windstorm and caused an accident on a nearby freeway. So hopefully we don't, run into claims like that again. But again, just to see kind of the exposure and what the possible claims that could arise in a situation when we're insuring vacant land. So this is an admitted product. It starts off about $500 minimum premium, and we can do up to 1,000 acres per location. If they have like lakes, or they can have a couple lakes on there, or if they have like a shed, for example, where they keep like tools and like maybe a lawnmower and different things to maintain the land, that's fine as well. Once we go a little bit bigger than just that small shed, and there's a true building on that land, whether it's 70 acres or just 1 acre or maybe even a 1/4 acre plot, we do consider it under a vacant building product. So with this product, we can do GLN property. If it's a vacant building or a vacant condo or a lease space, it all fits under this product. And these are the vacant land and the vacant building product are quotable online, so you'll be able to quote through J.E. Brown's website as well, and you'll be able to distinguish under the vacant product whether it is a vacant building that's owned or a vacant condo, which is when we're just looking to insure the 4 walls in, or a vacant lease space where the applicant's interest is just as a tenant. So again, we can do GLN property. We do not have a restriction for the age of the building, which is great. So if you see kind of, buildings in downtown where it could be on the historic registry, that's fine. It can be built in the 1800s, and that's all okay from a GLN property standpoint. We do just want to stay away from those buildings that are currently damaged. So sometimes they are on the historic registry and they may have had some old damage to it, which in that case, we wouldn't write for GLN property. And we do have the capability of writing different policy terms, which consists of 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. And even if at 12 months, if they are, come back to us and say, hey, we need you to renew this for the next year, maybe a couple years, that is an option as well. We never get off of a risk for it being vacant for so long, whether we're writing it for those years or we're getting a first time look at it because it was vacant with another carrier for so long and they're trying to get off of it at that point. So the maximum capacity which we can do for a vacant building product is 250,000 square feet per building and 3 million TIV, which is like the total insurable value of the building. Once we go over that, we do have some options for a sister company through J.E. Brown. So if you do see a little bit larger building, still feel free to submit that. I'll just go with our sister company. Another area for a vacant building is when the vacant building is undergoing renovations. So with that, it's actually pretty cool because we've had some recent product changes or updates to really enhance the product offerings. So for example, for a vacant building or vacant lease space or vacant condo undergoing renovations, they can do up to 1 million renovations and still stay on an admitted basis. And with that, they may be doing some cosmetic changes and whatnot, and they can even have already started those renovations and will still be a market for that. Again, we offer this on admitted terms for those renovations under 1 million project. If they do have renovations that are a little bit larger than that, that's okay too. Just note that it would fall outside of our vacant building product, which we basically would just do more underwriting on our side. However, you can still quote these ones online, like we mentioned. If you ever have a vacant exposure where it's a partially vacant building, we're able to take a look at that as well. We just actually consider that under a different product, which is our lesser's risk product, which you can also quote online. Just note that if you ever quote the lesser's risk and it has less than a 70% occupancy rate, then we will need to add on that partially vacant class code. And again, you can access all of that online. And so like I mentioned, just the different selling features for our vacant products here. We do offer special and replacement costs for vacant buildings up to 60 years old. The special cause of loss offering is determined off of the type of plumbing and the roof age and the type of roof. And then the replacement cost, like I mentioned, we can go up to 60 years old. And we don't have an age of building restriction. So again, like I mentioned, if the building built is 1800, that's okay. If it's a newer building, that's fine too. And also just note that kind of the newer buildings and the higher TIVs that we get, the better property rate that we're going to see. So several of our recently bound accounts have been vacant buildings. It is one of our most successful products here at USLI, especially on the West Coast, where we have seen buildings that are, around that $2 million range, and we're getting a 2 to 3 cent rate per month on there. So we're definitely trying to get more of this business and be more competitive in the marketplace as well, which is why we just recently expanded even our the amount of renovations that we can consider. And then, so if we move on to our next slide, we have our Business Resource Center. So if you're wondering what the Business Resource Center is, maybe you've heard it, maybe you've seen a flyer attached to one of our quotes. So the Business Resource Center is really just free or discounted services that USLI has to offer to you as well as your insured. So, we want to sell more than just an insurance policy. Insurance policy may be something that the insured may or may not ever use, but we want to sell them more different free or discounted services that'll help keep them in business for the long term. Because again, like we mentioned before, the longer that they stay in business, the longer they renew their policies with you, and hopefully you do that with J.E. Brown and with USLI. So different services that are available through the Business Resource Center can be seen on this slide. And then ones that pertain particularly to our vacant building are things like the Human Resource Hotline, which is a free 24-hour hotline that a building owner, for example, can use and say, if I fire my handyman who's doing work on this building for this reason, could they file a lawsuit against me? Or different types of like lawyer questions or questions you would ask a lawyer, where in California, it's probably going to be like $300 an hour just to get that type of professional advice. They can call this free HR hotline and get access to someone who will give that information to them for no charge, all just by binding a USLI policy. There's also discounted tenant screenings. So then that way, if we have a vacant building and they're going to be getting some tenants in there the next few months, they don't want the next, like Breaking Bad tenant to go in there. They really want to make sure they're qualifying the type of tenants that'll be going into their building in which they could use this service. A couple new features that we added to the Business Resource Center includes a cyber risk assessment to really gauge the understanding of where's my cyber exposure as a building owner. For example, we've all heard it, we're all susceptible of being hacked at any time. So just different ways of, as a building owner, how they can address, the protection that they'll need as a building owner for any cyber attacks. And then most recently this week, we also added some CPR training, which again is great just for any type of business. We do that here at USLI, which we're predominantly office professional type based atmosphere. But again, it is something that's accessible for you and the insureds it's a discounted rate that you just log in and do the training online. And then you have, they send you like a dummy doll and then you do the CPR training right there on site. So just trying to throw in some different services. And if you ever have any successes as well, where the Business Resource Center has helped you sell a USI policy, definitely let Michael and me know. We love to hear those stories, and it really kind of keeps us going with different things we can add to the Business Resource Center. Thanks, Michael. And then just kind of lastly about the Business Resource Center, again, it strengthens our relationship with you as well as the relationships you'll have with your clients, because you're really showing them that you care more about their business and not just they're not just another check coming in for a policy. You really want to help their business grow, and it'll eventually help set you aside or set you apart from the other retailers out there who maybe, different agents will be knocking on the door trying to sell them insurance as well, but you're really trying to sell them more than just an insurance policy, something that, where you truly care about their business and the longevity of their business.
Yeah, if I could, Crystal, if I could just jump in there, because I think that pretty much wraps up the BRC section. I just want to hammer on that third bullet point there. A lot of times it's a close, the sale is between, you and another competing quote, and it's pretty close, or maybe you're a little bit higher. When you can really show the added value of some of these services, and there's even a calculator that if we have time at the end, we can look at for the insured to see what they might incur in terms of, costs for various services during the policy term. And they can kind of factor that into their decision. It really can make a difference. The other thing I wanted to point out is that, as Crystal alluded to, some of the services are more relevant for different types of businesses. Like a vacant building, like she mentioned, tenant screenings, well, totally relevant. On the other hand, like if you get a personal umbrella, you still get access to the BRC. So any policy holder gets access. They might use, a background check or consulting on paying, a nanny or another household worker or something like that. So it's a huge, huge benefit to your policyholders.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right. So let's do a test quote, shall we? All right. So most of you, I think, are familiar with our website. This is your dashboard, your single sign-on. I want to really quickly just point out that, as I always do, at the top of our site, there's a search bar, and you can type in any, key term or company name that you like. And if you're someone who prefers to do phone quotes, I know a lot of our customers really like phone quotes. You can actually find not only the number, but some of the classes that are available for phone quote here on our website. So I just want to point that out. And of course, Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, vacant building is part of this.
Yes, vacant building is part of it. But.
All right, so let's jump into our quote. So back to the dashboard, I'm going to do the online version here. All right, so sorry guys, I got dark mode. Let's go to not dark mode. How about that? So you can see we've got vacant building here. And I'm going to use California. Most of our customers are located in California. You can see, as Crystal mentioned a moment ago, we have flexible terms for the vacant policies. They are on a short rate, as we'll see in a moment. And I'm just going to do a fairly small building here. You can see that we have the options that we looked at a moment ago in terms of the various vacant scenarios. I'm just going to say that this is a small frame building that happens to be vacant, perhaps in between tenants. So in that case, perhaps you'd do a 3-month, but we'll just keep the annual. And one of the things I really like about the USLI system is that it allows you to put in very minimal information. You notice I even put in a dummy address here with just the zip code, which is one of the factors that's important. I can get a rate. And so I don't have to spend a lot of time, especially if it's a prospective client coming my way and just trying to kick the tires. I can simply put in the bare rating information and give them a rate without spending 2 hours on an application. Now I'm going to leave a couple of questions unknown, and I think that's a really crucial thing to point out, because that's okay. We can still get a rate. As Crystal mentioned, the plumbing and I think it's the roof type will also dictate like whether I get this replaced, or I'm sorry, the special cause of loss. But for the sake of the demo, we're just going to leave those as unknown. Let's put the roof age here. Let's say we know that that's 15 years and there's a little bit of business personal property on the premises. Limits default here, you can tweak those. One other thing I like is they default to the, the common limits that people are desiring. They're not, not going low here and then forcing you to scour it to make sure they're all right. And we're going to say no additional insured at this time. Okay, so as we discussed, we have an admitted quote here. Quote breakdown. Some common forms and endorsements that are available if you want to read those. And of course, various options here. Now you can continue and complete the quote. I'm not going to do that in an effort to save time for today. I'm going to just pull open the quote letter really quickly, but you could also email this full PDF quote letter straight to your insured if you'd like. So all of, 5-minute time investment, you can send your client a quote. Many of you have seen these. If you've submitted business on a traditional basis, this is the same quote you may have gotten back. Our checklist. We won't spend too much time on this, but I'll just say that in addition to the quote, you have the partially pre-filled application. So of course you can complete outside of the system here if you wanted to do that at a later date. And oftentimes you'll see even unsolicited excess quotes or quotes for other lines of business. If we have the information, as you see here, we've also quoted additional limits of liability if your insured is so inclined. So with that, Crystal, anything you want to add to anything we see here on the quote, or shall we jump into Q&A?
No, I think that you touched on everything, and especially with the excess. I'm glad you mentioned that too, Michael, because the excess is also one of our top binding products, and we're definitely seeing more requests to bind excess now, whether it's with vacant buildings or other building owners, because just because our society, especially California, is very litigious out here, and everyone's looking for higher limits now just in case they ever get sued for a multitude of reasons. So I'm glad that you highlighted that as well.
Great. Well, folks, now's your time to enter any questions that you have. I see couple of them already here. So before we jump into that, let me just remind you of where to access the online quoting. That's through your single sign-on portal here. You can click the USLI button, or of course, search at the top here for company name, or again, for any key term that you're trying to find. I always like to point out the search function of our site because I think it's underutilized and it's a marvelous thing. So first question, Crystal, is I think you already hit this, but just for those that maybe joined late, what is the sort of percentage where it tips from lesser's risk to vacant? I think you cited that earlier.
Yes. So once it's less than 70% occupied, we would add on a partially vacant class code.
Okay, got it. So if it has any occupancy, it'll just be the 2 codes then.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question. Someone says, sorry, I'm sure I missed this, but what is the minimum and maximum coverage for vacant land? I'm guessing they're referring to acreage and maybe limits for the GL?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And again, this is a GL only product because we're just looking to ensure slip and fall coverage, and the GL are insurance requirements for the land. And it is 1,000 acres per location. They can have multiple locations on there. That's not a problem. And then we offer 1 million, 2 million limits for the underlying, and then up to 5 million for the excess.
Perfect. Well, while we're on that topic, you got to tell us how that claim turned out with the dust that blew from the property onto the road.
I know. We ended up paying out. I haven't seen another one since then, but hopefully we don't see another one again. Wild, right?
I can't believe that. That's so wild. Yeah. There's no negligence. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No one can say dust never caused any trouble. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So someone's asking, I think, a fairly good question, and it may be as a result of one of the images we had in there in the slide deck. Someone's asking about buildings with existing damage? And I'll just add on to that question. What about demolition, where, you know, they've got to tear down part of the building or all of the building?
Yep, both good questions there. So we don't want to write any currently damaged buildings. If it's like an old building, again, you know, it's been vacant for a while, that's fine. We understand, you know, the paint maybe chipping a little on the inside, but we don't want necessarily like a bunch of broken windows, a vandalized building, or water damage on the inside or things like that. So again, we want to do like a renovation project for just making the building brand new again. So we don't want it like completely damaged or any like restoration projects. We do want to review it as they're, you know, making it accommodating for the new tenant, or maybe a new, they're going to be opening a restaurant there in the future. So really kind of accommodating it for the future business operations. In regards to demolition, they can do some type of like interior demolition, that's fine. Obviously, you know, if they need to break down some walls, that's okay. Any structural renovations are acceptable. However, it will flip it into a different product. If there's any full demolition of the building, we would not write that at all.
Got it. So if they're raising it, no deal. Okay. What about, someone else is asking about renovations that have already started. Is there a threshold? I'm just kind of rephrasing the question here, but is there a threshold where you no longer want it?
Up to $1 million, and up to $1 million project value. So if they have a $700,000 project that's already started, that's okay. We can take a look at it from the GL and property perspective, and that was kind of in conjunction with our new product updates that went live yesterday. So perfect timing for our vacant building product.
Okay, so renovations that have already started are eligible, or for consideration,
Correct.
I should say.
Correct, up to $1 million renovations.
Okay, got it. Okay, folks, if you have any other questions, by all means, enter them. We're going to wrap up here. I don't see any more flowing through, but certainly if you think of something after today or just need help with a quote, want marketing materials, anything like that at all, you can reach out to your regional sales manager. Reach us on the web, of course, at jebrown.net, or by phone at 800-955-8213. Excuse me. And we, as always, we appreciate your time today. We appreciate your business, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much to Crystal Lawler for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you for attending, everyone.
Have a great day. See you out there.
Bye.